It's Thursday. Welcome, everyone, to the 12th episode of Echoes from the Source.
Great to be here.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into something I think we all grapple with, that tension between how we want to be seen, impressing others, and just being ourselves, our
Yeah.
expression.
It's a really core human thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. And our source for this exploration is Gurudev Sri Ravi Shankar, specifically his book, An Intimate Note to the Sincere Seeker.
A fantastic resource.
It really is. We're focusing on the wisdom in one particular chapter there. It really unpacks this shift away from that constant effort to impress towards something more freeing, authentic self-expression.
That's the goal, isn't it? Finding that freedom.
Exactly. So the mission today is to really get under the hood of this idea. How does letting go of impressing actually lead to more genuine, maybe even more impactful expression? How can you, listening, apply this?
Well, the starting point in Gurudev's teaching is honestly a bit mind-bending.
Oh, how so?
He says, and I'm quoting here, an effort to impress others or to express yourself is futile. Effort itself is the biggest impediment to your natural expression.
Wow. Okay. Effort is futile. Even the effort to express yourself.
Yeah, that's the kicker. It suggests that the very act of trying, whether to impress or even just consciously trying to be expressive, gets in the way.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit because, wanting to make a good impression, wanting to connect, that feels pretty natural, right?
Yeah.
So what's the fundamental issue with that effort?
Well, Gurudev connects it to authenticity. When you're putting effort into impressing, you're essentially crafting a persona, right? A mask.
Right.
And that mask, even if it's well-meaning, designed to get approval or whatever, it creates a kind of disconnect, a gap between that performance and your actual inner state, your inner peace.
So the energy goes into maintaining the front instead of just being.
Exactly. You're managing an image, and that takes you away from your core. It obscures the real you.
So the more you try to be this ideal version for others, the less you actually are in that moment.
Precisely. And Gurudev's perspective is that true expression isn't something you manufacture. It's more like an overflow.
An overflow.
Yeah, an overflow of your inner state, that inherent peace or love or wisdom that's already there. When you quiet down that need for external validation, that am I doing okay? Do they like me? Noise. Then your authentic self just has the space to come out naturally. As he puts it, when you do not try to impress, expression comes naturally.
Okay, but here's a question then. If you stop trying to express, do you just become invisible or, ineffective?
Yeah.
How do you still have an impact?
That's a really important point. It touches on where real impact comes from. Gurudev says, when you function from the self, your expression is perfect and you leave a long-lasting impact.
Functioning from the self. What does the self mean here
Yeah,
exactly?
It refers to that deeper, authentic core, beyond the ego, beyond the wanting praise or fearing criticism. It's your fundamental nature. And when your words and actions come from that place,
Yeah.
they just have a different quality, a weight, a resonance, something that forced expression, no matter how polished, just lacks. It feels real.
That makes sense. It feels less like a performance and more like a genuine connection.
Exactly.
The material we looked at had some great stories illustrating this, like the friend described as a people pleaser,
Yeah.
always trying to fit in.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a classic example. She started engaging with these teachings, meditating, and gradually let go of that constant need to please everyone.
And the result wasn't what you might expect, like
Yeah.
people getting annoyed or rejecting her.
No, quite the opposite. She actually found her relationships became deeper, more real, because people were finally connecting with her, not the pleasing persona she'd built up. And she felt more inner peace, too. It really shows how dropping the mask can be so powerful.
Yeah. And then there was the young woman on the silence course. Her story was quite revealing, too.
The one who was initially very loud and expressive,
That's the one. But she realized during the silence.
that it wasn't really genuine expression at all. It was more like a cover, a way to mask insecurity, right?
Exactly. The quiet allowed her to see that, and then this calmer but actually more powerful voice started to emerge. It wasn't about being loud. It was about being grounded.
It really highlights that true expression isn't about volume, is it? It's about depth.
Totally. And what about the business presenter? The one who felt so much anxiety trying to sound wise and impressive.
Yes. That's a great illustration of the effort being the impediment. His anxiety came directly from trying so hard to live up to some image,
Right.
But then after a silence retreat, he shifted. He just spoke from where he was, authentically shared his experience. And that's when he connected deeply with the audience, not through forced inspiration, but through genuine presence.
Presence, not performance.
Just
And the artist, too. Shifting from painting for galleries for approval.
to painting from their own inner experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happened? Their work became more fulfilling for them and it resonated more deeply with others. It shows that when expression comes from that authentic inner place, it just connects.
It seems like there's a recurring theme here. Letting go of the external focus brings about a more powerful internal alignment, which then expresses itself naturally.
That's a great way to put it. And Gurudev uses some brilliant metaphors to help us get our heads around this, like the still water one.
Right. Still water reflecting clearly versus disturbed water.
Mm-hmm.
What does that tell us?
Well, think about it. If your mind is all churned up, worrying about opinions, trying to impress, it's like disturbed water. Your true reflection, your genuine expression gets distorted, murky.
Right.
But when you quiet the mind, let go of those pressures, it becomes like still water, clear. Your authentic self, your true voice can just be seen, reflected without distortion.
That's a powerful image. And the dust on a mirror metaphor, how does that fit in?
So the impressions we collect, compliments we cling to, criticisms that sting, memories, judgments, they act like dust settling on the mirror of our mind.
Ah, okay.
This dust obscures our clear view of ourselves and therefore how we express ourselves. So practices like meditation, gaining wisdom, Gurudev suggests they're like wiping the mirror clean.
Cleaning off the residue of experience so we can see clearly again.
Exactly, leading to clearer self-perception and more authentic expression.
I liked the metaphor of impressions as baggage at the airport, too. It feels very relatable.
Doesn't it? We lug around all this mental and emotional stuff, regrets about yesterday, anxieties about tomorrow, what so-and-so thinks of us. It's like checking in way too many heavy bags.
Yeah, it weighs you down.
Precisely. It restricts your freedom to just be present, to express yourself easily now. Wisdom is knowing what baggage you can just leave behind, not check it in.
And the tree in the wind, that speaks to resilience, right?
Yeah, it's about being rooted. A tree with deep roots, rooted in its own truth, can bend when the strong winds of external opinions or pressures blow.
But it doesn't break.
Exactly. It maintains its integrity. So when your expression comes from that deep, authentic place, you can handle external stuff without losing who you are.
That's a comforting thought. And the last metaphor, the cataract in the eyes, that really shifts the focus inward.
It does. It says, look, if your perception is clouded like having a cataract, it doesn't matter how much you polish the external mirror, the world you're looking at.
Right, the problem isn't the mirror.
The problem is the clouded lens you're looking through. The priority isn't fixing the outside world's perception of you. It's clearing your own inner vision by dealing with those accumulated impressions, that cataract.
So it always comes back to inner work, clearing the inner space.
Fundamentally, yes. That seems to be the core message.
Okay, so we've got the concept, the pitfalls of effort, the power of authenticity, some great examples, these helpful metaphors. How do we actually start doing this? What are some practical steps for everyday life?
Well, Gurudev offers a lot of practical guidance. The first step really is just awareness, self-awareness, noticing.
Noticing when you're doing the impressing thing.
Yeah, just catching yourself in the act, feeling that urge. And then consciously working on releasing unnecessary impressions, like being mindful of what you consume media, conversations. What are you letting stick to you?
Like filtering the input?
Sort of.
Yeah.
And practicing non-reaction, that pause. Someone pushes your button instead of instantly reacting. Just pause, breathe. That space helps clear things out.
That pause sounds crucial. And meditation comes up again and again.
Absolutely. It's presented as a key tool for dissolving those old impressions, that dust, and also for gaining a kind of mastery. So expression comes more from that calm center, less from ego or reaction.
So it's about speaking and acting from like inner truth and peace, not putting on a show.
Exactly. And related to that is limiting unnecessary expression.
Meaning?
Well, sometimes we talk just to fill silence or to prove a point or to, make sure we're noticed. Maybe pausing before doing that. Does this really need to be said? Does it come from a place of peace?
Being more selective about output as well as input.
You got it. And cultivating what's called effortless presence.
How do you do that?
It could start simply. Maybe beginning the day with just a few minutes of stillness, no agenda, just being. That can set a different tone for the whole day. Observing your own efforts without judgment. embracing moments of silence instead of rushing to fill them.
It sounds like a collection of small, consistent practices.
It really is. Things like really being present in conversations instead of thinking about what you'll say next. Mentally dropping yesterday's baggage each morning, trying to listen more deeply than you speak.
Mm-hmm.
And that check-in you mentioned, just asking yourself, maybe several times a day, okay, right now am I trying to impress or am I just expressing what feels true?
That's a really direct question to ask oneself.
It is. And maybe an evening reflection, not judging, just noticing the impressions of the day, letting them go without grabbing onto them. It's about letting go of performing, just being real.
This feels like it requires ongoing attention, like tending a garden.
That's a good analogy. It's not a one-time fix. It's ongoing mental and emotional hygiene, you could say.
So more tips, like choosing minimal expression when triggered.
Yes. Instead of a big outburst, maybe just what's essential and kind. Trusting that sleep and meditation actually do help cleanse the mind. Prioritizing that inner depth over just, making a splash.
Regular silence practice seems key too.
Definitely. Like washing away the accumulated dust regularly, being mindful if you're talking too much, maybe losing your depth, choosing impressions, carefully nourishing ones.
Noticing the shift, right? From effort to ease.
Yes, becoming aware of when you're acting from that deeper self versus the ego's neediness.
Right.
Recognizing that pull for approval.
Releasing attachments to impressions, good or bad.
Understanding they're temporary. Letting go of needing things to be perfect. Embracing authenticity, flaws and all. Cultivating self-love, so you need less external validation.
It seems like a lot, but it all points in the same direction.
It does. Observing your intentions. Detaching from praise and blame, anchoring in the self. Maybe using journaling to see what's lingering in the mind. Connecting with nature. Being present. Even serving others without needing recognition that helps transcend the ego's need to impress.
Wow. It's sometimes real power isn't about doing more or saying more, but actually holding back.
Yeah, exactly. We've been looking at some, spiritual teachings, a few personal stories, and some pretty cool metaphors.
Right. And they all seem to point towards this idea that, less can actually be more impactful anyway.
That's the core of it. We usually think, okay, got to be engaged, got to speak out. That's how you get noticed, right?
Sure.
But this stuff suggests maybe,
Yeah.
maybe the opposite is true sometimes, that finding some inner quiet, some stillness, that might be the real key to better communication.
And inner peace too, sounds like.
Definitely.
Okay, so think about this. Maybe this has happened to you listening. Ever walk away from, I don't know, an argument or even just a long chat and feel totally wiped out?
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe you blurt something out and instantly think, oh, why did I say that?
Happens to everyone, I think.
Might shed some light on that. We want to get into the why and maybe how to shift that pattern a bit.
Sounds good.
Okay, so maybe with that core idea of quality over quantity.
Exactly. He uses this metaphor like trying to express yourself without being grounded, without that inner awareness. It's like pouring water into a pot with cracks in it.
Oh.
All that effort, pouring and pouring. But nothing actually stays. It just leaks out.
So you're just wasting energy.
Pretty much. It really makes you think. It's about letting words come from that calm place naturally, effortlessly, not forcing them out because you feel you have to say something.
Okay, yeah. Like the difference between, I don't know, a forced smile and a genuine laugh that just bubbles up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the material also touches on this whole idea of effort. It says, real expression doesn't actually feel like hard work. In fact, trying too hard, really straining to get your point across, that can actually block the flow. It gets in the way.
It's like you're tightening up.
Yeah, precisely. Which leads to the question, why do we try so hard sometimes?
Good question.
And the sources suggest, well, often it's about wanting to impress people. Get their approval, look good.
Sure, that drive is strong.
But here's the twist, the kind of counterintuitive bit. When you consciously let go of needing to impress, your expression actually becomes more authentic, more real, and, funny enough, usually more impactful too.
Huh. Yeah, I can see that, like someone trying way too hard to be funny versus someone who's just naturally witty.
Totally. And ultimately, these teachings say the aim is to kind of function from that deeper place, that self.
That core awareness.
Right. And when you do that, your expression becomes, well, they call it perfect expression.
Perfect. That sounds intimidating.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean grammatically perfect or delivering a flawless speech. It means your words and actions are aligned with who you really are deep down, free from all that ego stuff that need to perform.
Okay, alignment. That makes more sense than perfect.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
So that's about how we project outwards. But you mentioned impressions earlier.
Yeah.
Let's switch gears a bit. What are those about?
Okay, yeah. Impressions. Think of them as the leftovers from experiences, like mental and emotional echoes.
Echoes, okay.
The feelings, the thoughts, the sort of vibe that hangs around after something happens, good stuff, bad stuff, even just confusing stuff, leaves these little traces.
It's like mental residue.
That's a great way to put it. Mental residue. And the sources explain that our system, our mind and body, naturally tries to deal with these, to process them. Well, dreaming is one way. You know how dreams can be weird replays or jumbles of the day?
Yeah.
That's partly your mind sorting through these impressions. Meditation is another way the system tries to release them. It's compared to, like, steam escaping from a pressure cooker.
Ah, letting off steam.
Exactly. It's a natural release mechanism for what's built up inside.
But what happens if they don't get released? If the steam builds up?
Right, good question. If they don't get processed properly, they start to accumulate, pile up, and that's where it gets really interesting for understanding ourselves.
So.
Because these unprocessed impressions, this residue, it can start to cloud our perception, our judgment.
Okay.
And it can lead to those reactive moments we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, suddenly snapping at someone. Or having a really strong emotional reaction that seems kind of out of proportion.
Yeah, it happens.
It could easily be an old impression, something unresolved from way back, bubbling up and hijacking your response in the present. And you might not even know why you reacted so strongly.
Wow. So it's like hidden triggers.
Kind of, yeah. And the sources suggest that having too many of these unprocessed impressions floating around can cause all sorts of issues, feeling confused, finding it hard to focus, maybe even developing biases or prejudices without realizing it.
Just general mental clutter.
Mental clutter, exactly. Like your mind is trying to operate while wading through mud.
So how do we clear the mud then? You mentioned meditation.
Right. And this is where practices like meditation come in. It's not just about zoning out or feeling blissed out, though that can happen.
Okay.
It's actually presented as an active process, a way to gently filter out and dissolve these built-up impressions to kind of clean the slate. They call it de-impressing the mind.
De-impressing the mind. I like that.
Yeah. There's a great metaphor used. Impressions are like drops of ink in a glass of clear water.
Okay, I can picture that.
They instantly cloud the water, make it murky, right?
Yeah.
You can't see through it clearly. That's the mind full of unprocessed impressions.
Right.
But if you let the glass just sit quietly, which is like meditation, the ink particles slowly settle down to the bottom.
And the water becomes clear again.
Exactly. Clarity is restored. And then your expression can flow naturally from that clear state, not through the murky water.
That's a really helpful image.
Any others?
Yeah. Another one is thinking of impressions like stains building up on the canvas of your mind over time. Each experience leaves a little mark, and eventually the whole picture is affected.
Changes how you see things, how you paint your reality.
Precisely. Or maybe even simpler. Picture carrying an invisible backpack. And with every experience you don't fully process, you toss a little emotional rock in there.
Gets heavy after a while.
Exactly. You're carrying this weight around, this emotional baggage, and it affects how you move, how you react, how tired you feel.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So we have expression from stillness, clearing out impressions. What about this whole performance thing? Trying too hard. Let's get back to that.
Yeah, let's. Because it seems like a really common trap, this subtle belief that we have to be constantly striving.
Striving for what? To be noticed, to be accepted, even sometimes to seem really spiritual or evolve.
Ah, right. The performance of spirituality.
Exactly. And the material points out that this constant effort, the straining, it can actually block the very thing we want. It can hinder genuine expression. It can block what they call the natural flow of grace.
That's paradoxical.
Totally. It's like we're putting on a show, maybe even without realizing it, even in really personal areas like our own growth or relationships. If the motive shifts to wanting applause,
You lose the authenticity.
you got it. And the irony, according to this material, is that chasing impact through sheer effort often backfires.
Oh.
It's like you tighten the channels. Imagine trying to force a river to flow faster by squeezing its banks. You don't speed it up, you just restrict it, you limit its natural power.
So trying harder makes the expression tighter, less effective.
Often, yeah. Less
Yeah.
natural, certainly.
Okay, these ideas are clipping, but sometimes stories help make it real. Did the sources have any examples?
Oh, absolutely. Some really good ones. There was this story about a motivational speaker. Used to give these high-energy talks, really performative, you know, and afterwards they'd feel completely drained, just wiped out.
I can imagine.
But then they started working on this inner stillness stuff,
Yeah.
consciously cultivating quiet inside. And they found that by speaking less, but from that deeper, calmer place,
Yeah.
the impact on the audience was actually way more profound. They connected more deeply.
Wow. So less talking, more impact.
Kinda, yeah. They shifted from performing to just sharing from that quiet space.
Any other examples like that?
There was one about a corporate leader. Initially thought being loud, dominating meetings was the way to show authority.
The loudest voice wins kind of thing?
Right. But then they started intentionally practicing more quiet reflection, just being present in meetings, listening more. And guess what?
Gain more respect.
Way more influence, more respect. People started listening to them more closely when they did speak.
That's fascinating. Goes against the grain, doesn't it?
Completely. And there was another speaker story, really striking. Someone who went on a silent retreat.
Okay, total silence.
Total silence. And they completely lost their voice, metaphorically. Couldn't think of what to say, how to perform their usual talk.
Oh, wow. Awkward.
You'd think, but in that silence, just being there, stripped of words, they felt this incredibly deep connection with the group. Deeper than any slick presentation they'd given before.
This is presence.
Just presence. It really highlights that power beyond words.
Any non-speaking examples, like artists or musicians?
Yeah, definitely. There was a musician mentioned, amazing technical skills, like could play anything perfectly.
Wow.
But something was missing. The playing felt a bit cold, maybe.
Yeah.
Lacked soul.
Technically brilliant, but no heart.
Exactly. Then they made a conscious shift. Stopped trying so hard to impress with the technique and started trying to connect with that inner stillness while playing.
Yeah.
The music transformed. It became deeply moving, really resonated with people emotionally. Same notes, different source.
Letting go of the performance.
Letting go of the need to impress. And similarly, there was a painter. Her early work was all about getting attention, being noticed.
Look at me, art.
Kind of, yeah. But then she started painting from a quieter place inside, more for herself, less for an audience. And her art became much more powerful, more meaningful. People felt it differently.
These stories really drive it home, don't they? Authenticity trumps forced effort.
Every time, it seemed.
Okay, so this is all great conceptually. Love the stories. But how do we actually do this? You know, in the middle of a busy day, a stressful meeting, family arguments, what are the practical steps?
Right, the how-tos. The sources actually offer a lot of concrete things we can try.
Good. Like what?
Well, one of the simplest, maybe most powerful, is just pausing before you speak.
Pausing. And then,
Especially when emotions are high. Someone says something that triggers you. Instead of instantly firing back, take a breath. Just one conscious breath.
what is that?
It creates a tiny space. Just enough wiggle room between the trigger and your response. Allows you to respond from awareness, hopefully, rather than just pure impulse driven by those old impressions.
Buy yourself a second.
Exactly. Another thing is becoming more aware of our, let's say, less conscious expressions.
Like what?
Like that urge to immediately jump on social media and vent, or launch into a rant with a friend.
Uh-huh.
The suggestion is to ask yourself, is this coming from my calm, centered self? Or is it just agitation needing an outlet, or maybe needing validation?
Good question to ask.
And sometimes choosing silence in that moment, just letting the feeling be there without broadcasting it, that can actually be a sign of inner strength, of self-regulation.
Interesting. Resisting the urge to vent.
Yeah, and related to that, actively observing our inner noise. You know, the thoughts, the feelings that linger after stuff happens during the day.
Paying attention to the mental chatter.
Right, just noticing it without getting swept away. Seeing how meditation, for instance, helps that noise kind of fade out on its own. This helps detach us from its influence.
So observing the impressions without grabbing onto them.
Exactly. And another big one, especially today, consciously trying to let go of the need to be seen, to be acknowledged.
Easier said than done.
Oh, totally. But when you feel that craving for likes or praise or just someone to notice you, the practice is to turn inwards.
And do what?
Gently ask, like, okay, who inside me needs this right now? Just exploring that need rather than immediately trying to satisfy it externally. It can be quite revealing.
A little inner detective work.
Kind of. And journaling comes up too as a really practical tool.
How so?
For catching those echoes of past impressions, writing down strong emotions, what triggered them, how you reacted. It helps you see the patterns.
Make the unconscious conscious?
Precisely.
Right.
Then you can start to gently disarm those triggers.
Makes sense. What about positive stuff, like compliments?
Good point. The sources wisely say don't cling to those either.
Really? Why not?
Because it's still attaching your inner state to something external. True stability comes from not getting too high on the praise or too low on the criticism. Let both pass through without leaving sticky impressions.
Maintain an inner balance.
Exactly. And find ways to get short breaks of solitude. Even just 5 quiet minutes can reset your nervous system.
Okay.
Helps you find your own rhythm again, away from constant input.
Mini resets.
Mini resets. And with journaling, do it without judgment. Just note the impressions like you're observing clouds. Helps you realize you are not the impressions.
Okay. And meditation, you keep mentioning it.
Yeah.
Is it just about sitting quietly?
The emphasis is less on achieving a silent mind and more on allowing. Creating a space where those built-up impressions can just dissolve naturally without you fighting them or analyzing them, just letting them go.
Gentle release.
Gentle release.
Right.
And connecting back to that performance idea,
Yeah.
try to consciously notice when you're slipping into a role. You know, the competent employee role, the perfect parent role, whatever it is.
We all play roles.
We do. But the practice is to remember the awareness behind the role. That's the real you, the self. And regularly ask, why am I saying this? What's my real intention here? Is it to connect or to impress? Catch that inner performer.
Become aware of the performance motive.
Exactly. It's like practicing good inner hygiene.
Inner hygiene, I like that.
Yeah. Using silence, meditation, reflection to consciously clear out the mental clutter that builds up every day. Maybe before bed, just take a moment. What impression from today can I just let go of now?
A little mental sweep up.
Totally. And learning that sometimes you don't have to express every single emotion outwardly.
We're often told to get it out.
We are, and sometimes that's needed. But other times we can learn to just observe an emotion internally, let it dissolve without needing an audience, without needing to be heard. That builds inner strength, the strength of silence.
The strength of silence. Okay.
And it all comes back to that core idea. When expression does come from that place of inner stillness,
Right.
it has real power.
Even if it's just a few words.
Especially then, maybe. Few words, carefully chosen, from a place of calm depth, can land much harder than a whole flood of reactive chatter.
Quality over quantity again.
Always. So in conversations, check in. Am I speaking from stillness or from a need to prove something? A need to be seen? Recognizing that difference is huge.
Use silence as a reset button.
Absolutely, especially after things get heated. Take a silent pause, let things settle internally before continuing.
And this effortless awareness idea?
Yeah, that's about noticing the urge to jump in, defend yourself, impress someone, but not necessarily acting on it immediately. Just watch the urge itself.
Observe the impulse.
Observe the impulse. And watch your mental clutter, generally. What thoughts or feelings stuck with you today? Can you consciously let them go now through mindfulness?
Okay. Simplify words, maybe?
Definitely. Speak less, but with more intention. Let your presence, your silence, communicate too. Don't feel you have to fill every gap.
Pause before reacting to triggers.
Don't absorb them. Let them pass by like clouds, and maybe rethink how we use social media. Engage authentically, not just chasing likes.
Perform less online.
Perform less online. Create things for the joy of it, not purely for the applause.
Act without attachment to the outcome.
Exactly. And keep coming back to meditation, even brief daily practice, to dissolve that buildup. It really boils down to speak less, mean more, save your energy, let silence add weight.
Wow, okay. Lots of practical stuff there.
Yeah.
And those metaphors we touched on earlier, they really help tie it together, don't they?
They really do. The cracked pot, for instance. Such a clear image of pouring energy out uselessly when you're not inwardly grounded.
Right. Or dreams as a release valve. That makes intuitive sense, the mind sorting things out overnight.
And the ink and clear water, that's my favorite, I think. How impressions cloud things, and how stillness, like letting the water settle, brings back clarity.
Yeah, that's powerful. And the stains on a canvas, showing that cumulative effect over time, how past stuff colors our present expression.
Totally. And just the simple idea of emotional baggage, that invisible backpack getting heavier and heavier with unprocessed stuff. We all feel that sometimes, right?
For sure. Oh, and the clouded mirror one with the cataract.
Oh, yes. That's a great one, too. It suggests the problem isn't usually the world outside the mirror. It's our own perception, our own reactive tendencies, the cataract, that distort the view.
Taking responsibility for our own clouded view.
Exactly. It puts the power back in our hands to work on clearing our own vision.
Okay. So, wrapping this up, bringing it all together.
Right.
What's the main thing you want people to take away from this deep dive?
I think fundamentally it's this. Real strength, real impact in how we communicate and just be in the world. It grows from inner stillness, not from forcing things, not from constantly performing,
Letting go of the striving.
letting go of the striving, and maybe just as important, remembering that you aren't defined by your fleeting words or actions or by the residue of your past
The
experiences.
impressions.
Right. You're not the expressions. You're not the impressions. You are the awareness underneath all of that, the quiet space where it all happens.
That's a profound thought. You are the space, not the stuff happening in the space.
Nicely put. Yeah.
So we really hope you listening will maybe uh, try some of these practical things out, even small experiments.
Yeah, absolutely. Just try pausing before you speak next time you feel triggered, or carve out just 5 minutes of quiet time today. Or simply notice your thoughts without judgment.
See what shifts. It might be subtle at first.
Could be subtle, could be significant,
Yep.
but worth exploring.
Definitely. Which kind of leads to a final thought, maybe something for you to mull over after we finish.
Okay.
In a world that seems to value noise, constant chatter, quick reactions,
Mm.
what could happen if you intentionally cultivated more silence?
Mm.
What kind of insights, what kind of deeper, more authentic expressions might actually arise from your stillness?
That's a great question to sit with. How could nurturing that inner quiet change? Well, everything. Your relationships, your work, your own sense of peace.
Food for thought. How might your silence speak?
Thank you for exploring all this with us today.
Thank you. It's always insightful revisiting this wisdom.
Indeed. Join us next time for another Echoes from the Source.